Hello everybody, Mike here with you guys once again, and this is going to be an impressions video of Mass Effect Andromeda. I've been playing this thing non-stop. This was my most anticipated game of this year, but I knew it wasn't going to be as good as the originals because the original writer for the first two games is no more. He left before he wasn't involved in Mass Effect 3, and he's not involved in Andromeda. Instead, the guy that wrote for Mass Effect 3 wrote for Andromeda. So I knew that it was going to be a step down in some ways. And so far, most of the time it's pretty fun. I like that they brought back narrative difficulty, so everything is super easy in terms of combat. You know, I've had a couple close calls, but again, with that difficulty, there's not a lot of hard combat. There's a little bit, it spikes slightly here and there, but it's rare. And I think that's why I've been playing so long, because I'm able to get farther when the game is super easy, which I love. And I also love talking to people, you know, doing all the side quests. I love that. But, and by the way, this is not a review, it's just the first impressions. I'll do a full review after completing the game. But so far there's one world where you're constantly in combat, and I think they did that to create a sense of level grinding. You know, if you want to just level grind, there's a planet for you to do just that, especially if you want to level grind by shooting things. But I don't like that, you know. I like doing quests, I like exploring, I like talking to people. Combat is more of a secondary thing for me with the series. So, yeah, those are my impressions of Mass Effect Andromeda, but I also wanted to talk about something else Mass Effect related, and that is comparing the two writers. And I know their first names, but not their last names. Well, I know the second guy's last name, but since I don't know the first guy's last name, I don't want to try to butcher it here. So I'm trying to avoid names, so I don't butcher names. So I don't butcher them. But Mass Effect 3 missed the mark in much more subtle ways than people realize. Everybody's so focused on the ending and how out of place it was. I don't even think the ending was so much bad; it was out of place. But there's another problem with it that isn't talked about very often, and that is, for one, the main problem I have with the ending. I mean, I don't really have a problem with the ending so much now that it's been extended and explained. But the problem I had initially with it was it just felt like a different story. You know, it just became this weird avant-garde thing, and I like that type of stuff, but it has no place in a Mass Effect game. It doesn't make sense in a Mass Effect game. If you want to, you know, raise questions, you got to do it on a subtle level, you know. But an issue that I had with it completely dropped the whole dying sun thing. I am going to spoil the old games, but I'm not going to spoil Andromeda. But, so talking about, you know, a plot device that was introduced in Mass Effect 2, that was talked about several times, it's completely dropped in 3. We never hear about the sun, about dying suns again, you know. We never hear about that. But there's other things, much more nuanced, much more subtle things that are where Mass Effect 3, I think, misses the bar narratively. The Paragon and Renegade system. The Paragon and Renegade system was supposed to be a compassion versus being harsh. It wasn't about being good or being bad, per se. But in Mass Effect 3, it is clear that Renegade is evil and Paragon is good. Because if you play those styles out to their conclusion, let's say if you played Renegade throughout Mass Effect 3, your friends are going to feel betrayed, and you're going to you end up killing them, I think. At least I know that happens to Rex. You screw over Rex, he gets upset, and I think you kill him in a cutscene or something like that. And also, when a tough choice appears, remember when the Solarians tried to tempt you into not curing the genophage? if you ignore them and you cure the genophage anyway, they will eventually join you anyway after the attack on the council by Udina. And that's another thing. Udina turns out to be evil. Cerberus turns out to be evil. In Mass Effect, in the previous games, they were much more nuanced. It was more, they had questionable methods, but they weren't bad guys. And everything, all the nuance from Mass Effect 1 and 2 became binary and simple in the third game. Now here's another thematic problem with the third game that is against the ideas of the first two. And that is humanity's place in the galaxy. Humanity's place in the galaxy, they were supposed to be minorities. They were like the new kid in school. They were not respected much. That's why the Council gave Shepard a hard time, especially the Turian. And despite everything that you've done, they keep screwing you. And even though they do that in the third game in the beginning, the problem with Mass Effect 3 is they stroke your ego. That flies in the face of humans being a minority. You become this great hero, and all of a sudden, the thematic elements of the previous two games are dropped. No one mentions that. I don't know if anybody realizes this. But the problem with Mass Effect 3's narrative is that it doesn't have the nuance of the previous games. And I blame that on Mac Walters. I'm going to say Mac Walters because I know that. I know his full name. Drew, the original writer, I don't know his last name. I can't think of it on the top of my head. I have a vague thought of what it might be, but I really don't want to butcher it. But Drew, the writer of Mass Effect 1 and the co-writer of Mass Effect 2, was brilliant. He's the reason BioWare had great stories. And his absence is being felt right now, and that is why the reviews for Mass Effect Andromeda are lackluster compared to the previous games. Do I like the game? I'm hooked on it. There are aspects that I really love doing, but there are aspects that I don't like. Like I said, the non-stop combat, when you're trying to explore, and there's combat everywhere, and I'm like, I just want to explore. That was my problem with Bioshock 2. There was a point in Bioshock 2 where there were so many splicers that you couldn't take the time to look around because you were always being attacked everywhere. Oftentimes, game makers, they lose the point. When somebody creates something brilliant, and that's exploration-based or story-driven, someone else might come along, take over the franchise, and turn it into a combat game. Mass Effect is not supposed to be a third-person shooter. It's supposed to be an RPG with shooter elements or action elements. It's like an action scene in a Star Trek movie, or an action scene in Ghost in the Shell. It's not meant to be Star Wars. It's not meant to be a Michael Bay movie. It's not meant to be an action first. It's not meant to be Halo. You know? And I feel like there are points where I felt like Mass Effect 3 was nothing but not only a third-person shooter, it felt a bit like Uncharted at times with the platforming and stuff in Andromeda. And I'm like, this isn't Uncharted. I mean, I like Uncharted, but that's not Mass Effect. Now, what do I like about it? I told you what I liked about it. But there's one other thing I need to talk about that I don't like. And that is, the critics are right when they complain about the UI or the menu screens. Because I got lost for so long. I think I got lost for like an hour in one world because I couldn't find a forward station I had already been to on the map. Well, it turns out I was looking at the wrong level. A lot of confusion going on. And that's the thing, too. I don't like and also there are parts where you have to look for stuff. You get to an area, and then there's like multiple signals on the top of your screen, and you can't select just one. And that really confuses me at times. I don't see why game developers think it's fun to confuse you, because I don't find it fun. I find it frustrating. I don't like it. All right, enough complaining. I've been playing this for hours. I've been playing this nonstop. I'm still going to continue to play it nonstop. I'm going to be playing it as soon as I get off here. But there is enough for me to enjoy, at least, in terms of walking around, talking to people, exploring. you know, using the scanner, although that can be frustrating if at times, but it can also be a lot of fun too, depending on how easy it is to find stuff. It's fun to just go around and looking for quests. You know, you're walking around the space station, and you're finding all the and looking for things to do, or people to talk to, or people to help out, or whatever. Another thing I don't like is they brought back the Mako. I know it's not called the Mako, but it's a gunless Mako. I didn't like the Mako the last time around, and there was no reason to bring it back. But apparently they were fans of it because I did bring it back, but I didn't miss it, and I didn't want it to return. Although I am starting to get the hang of the vehicle, but still, Mass Effect is the best for me when it's like Mass Effect. When you're talking to people, when you're exploring, when you're looking around. I like going around to all the planets and looking for anomalies. I love that. A lot of people don't like that, but I love that. I spend a lot of time with that. I have 100%ed all the galaxies all the solar systems that I've been to so far. So yeah, Mass Effect Andromeda is a bit of a mixed bag so far. I am not done with this yet. I will do a review when I'm finished. And unfortunately, I couldn't finish the stream because, like I said, my rule is, you know, oftentimes when I do a stream, my stream will cut off automatically on me. It'll just automatically stop, and I don't know why. But when that happens, I'm just like, screw it. I'm not going to continue after that point. So the Mass Effect video streaming series is unfortunately over because it did happen. You know, it cut off on me. When my stream messes up, I quit, and that's my rule. So that's why the stream series is ended. But I will continue to play the game. I'm going to do that right now. I have a love-hate relationship with it. There are things that I can't stand about it, but there are things that I really enjoy about it enough that I continue playing it for hours on end. So I'm going to do that right now. Thank you guys for watching. Do I recommend this yet? I'm not going to give a recommendation until I finish because I'm so mixed up on it. But I will do, when I do my review, there will be a recommendation inherently in the review for sure. That's all I got, guys. Bye.